All right, I'd say this is probably the most frequently asked question out of any question I get. And pretty much what it is how do we distinguish whether price is breaking market structure, or are we actually just grabbing liquidity and then reversing? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and show you 3 ways on how I do this personally, and then I'm going to go and show you a chart example, as we always do. So yeah, let's get into it. So the issue is understandable, right? Because at one point in time, you'll be dealing with the same quote unquote pattern, right? Price would look identical. So in these two scenarios, you're basically faced with two options. Is it that a low is being swept and price is going to continue higher, or this is a break in structure and we're going to continue to the downside? Now, like I said, this can be confusing. However, I'm going to show you 3 ways on how we go ahead and how we do this. So number one, right, is the higher time frame program. So we know, and you'll know, I always talk about buy and sell programs. So a buy program would be where we're making higher highs and higher lows, bullish arrays are being respected, and price is slowly creeping higher. We have the sell program, which is the opposite, right? Now, something key to mention, right, in this sell program or buy program is whenever we run above a short-term old high, we're anticipating that to be a total soup when we're in a higher time frame sell program. So even though we do run above an old high, price should use that as a total soup to go lower. So that's, I guess that simply answers your question. However, there's obviously a bit more to it. But number one is buy program and sell program. So I will always be trying to gauge whether we are trending higher or trending lower, again, due to the program. And if we are in that buy program and we have yet to take out any major targets, like any major previous week's high, previous month's high, all that stuff, then I will assume that that run above or below the old low or old high is in fact going to be a total soup. Okay. Number two is the higher time frame PD rate. Now you'll see I always quote the higher time frame, right? And hopefully that makes you realize how important the higher time frame really is in encapsulating all of this. So with the PD array, let's say we're in that sell program. So let's set the stage, right? Okay. And let's say we have an array here. And let's say we push higher above this old high whilst in a sell program into the higher time frame PD array. That essentially would again give me a bit more confidence to say that price is going to go ahead and seep to the downside. Okay, so if you couple the spiral sell program with a higher time frame PD array, which you actually see inside the example I'm going to do, it basically adds confidence to the idea that we are essentially going to go ahead and continue lower. Okay, so a big thing about understanding the boss versus the structural break is, in a contextual standpoint, does it actually make sense? So like, for example, for price to reverse, and I know obviously it's hard to show it in this example, but does it make sense for price to reverse from this region? Have we taken out some sort of major liquidity? Have we tapped into some sort of fair value? Like, does the contextual standpoint actually make sense? Okay, now one thing I will note, I guess, is of course you're not going to get it right all the time. Sometimes you're still gonna get this wrong, right? You're gonna think it was a total soup and it's gonna reverse on you. Okay, but the point is that we're doing this on a base of probabilities. The reason I just said that is because I want you to have a realistic expectation about what's actually going on in the market, and understand that we're not searching for perfection. We're just looking for the probabilities to be in our favor. So what's the third array, right? So the third array I can actually add on to this, and it's SMT. Sorry, I didn't mean array there. So let's say, for example, this high and this high are, so let's say this high and this high here are intact, right? So this high never got swept, and this high failed to make a higher high. On a correlating asset, we look something like this. Then we know that SMT has further given us confidence to say, look, this is very, very, very likely to be a total soup, and we're actually going to go ahead and travel down further. Okay, So just to recap, number one, buy/sell program. Number two is coupling that with a higher time frame PD rate, and number three is SMT. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's hop into the chart and let me show you an example. All right, cool. Let's cover this inside of a chart example. So on the daily here, right, we'd already tapped this weekly CIBI. I'm pretty sure I covered that from a previous example. And in terms of program, you can see the shift from sell side to buy side, whether we're looking at it via a IFEG or an order block, same conclusion, daily clearly shifted, right? So our drawn liquidity is going to be this high up here. We want to see the next day expand to the upside. So in terms of those 3 points that I mentioned in the whiteboard, number one is checked off. Okay, even from an intraday standpoint, it's clear to see, right, that we're clearly in a buy program, i.e., we're making higher highs, higher lows, bullish arrays are being respected. So when we're in that sort of higher time frame buy program, right, we want to look for areas to long inside of. So of course, we have here a 4-hour FEG, and you can already notice on this 4-hour time frame, we have 3 candles that have consolidated. So we've had a build up, some sort of accumulation in price, which is essentially just building liquidity above and below the market, which eventually is going to lead to some sort of expansion to the upside. So let's have a look where we are on this. So let me just play this along. I'm going to mark on some of these things actually, just to make sure you guys remember what everything is. So again, like, we don't want to get confused or mixed up in thinking like, oh, is this like a change state of delivery? Like, did we shift program here? This is a consolidation that we understand is likely to lead to a higher move. Okay. Let me just move this along. And so ideally, right, once the low is purged, then we want to go ahead and target this high, right? Of course, this is the ultimate drawn liquidity. But in terms of a target, we just want to look at the next high in price normally. So I'll play this along, play. What time is this? All right, let Asia play out first. Okay, so that's Asia done. So we can see, if we go on the 15-minute, how Asia in fact was a consolidation. Very, very nice. You can see how last session had built these equal lows. London inside of that, sorry, Asia inside of that as well. So let's have a look what happens during London now. Alright, so I might have actually ruined that too much, actually. Hold on. There we go. So what happens here? Well, if we add in now the daily cycle and the second idea I mentioned about a higher time frame PD array, right, inside of a buy program, we understand that this has been a consolidation, accumulation. We had London protraction, which is one of the daily cycles, and now we want to see some sort of longs. Now, if we couple that with the final confirmation, isn't loading right now, but it's basically DXY. You can clearly see the SMT here. Okay, do you know what? I actually want it at the bottom here, so I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. All right, cool. So we're back, and you can clearly see the SMT between DXY and EU. So you see this low here. Let's just say, sorry, this high here. Let's say this high represents these equal lows. On EU, we've gone ahead and swept out that level, whereas on DXY, we have clearly not, right? So pretty much this is a failure swing. If you could see the sessions on here, it'll make a bit more sense. But you can also see we have short-term divergence here as well, where Asia low has basically, Asia high here has stayed intact, and London hasn't actually gone ahead and swept it. So basically, remember the 3 confirmations to really be able to determine whether it was like a market structure shift or a total soup was 1, the program, 2, the high time frame PD array, and then 3, the SMT. Okay, and of course we've used the daily cycle here as just an additional confluence to really give us that edge to say, look, like, this is like a correct cycle that we can play within. You guys who know my trade model will know this is how I frame trades anyway. And then on the 5-minute, we have a CSD. Okay. But if you are keeping up with the videos, you will notice that we form the entry that I really like, which is the propulsion block. And from there, again, you can go ahead, enter. You can really see that shift between sell side and buy side here. And once we start showing a willingness to go higher, that's when we really want to get behind this trade. So, I mean, you can see how quickly this runs. In terms of SL placement, we have these equal lows, but we also have these equal lows. And those equal lows, I didn't mention this on the reel. So for you guys who have already seen this on the reel, basically the reason why the SL was placed here, okay, was because one, we have trap traders underneath this level. And to be fair, because we had trap traders here and here, I wanted to keep the SL somewhere beneath here, but obviously not this low. So basically you can defend it by putting it beneath two FVGs, or basically just the FVGs of this failure swing, if that makes sense. And again, you can still get a good risk reward out of it, which leads to a nice trade. And then yeah, we go ahead and reach that. What you would have noticed, and obviously this is a trade from like last week, what you would have noticed was when we tagged that level, if I go to the hourly, I think we end up breaking the order flow, right? And the reason is, so we didn't get to that high. This is just, I guess, a bonus thing. The reason why is because look, this corresponding low that was corresponding to this high, so the same low on DXY and the same high on EU was already taken out. So what does that mean? Well, that means once we take out liquidity, we know we can disrupt order flow and we know we can break down lower. So that's why a lot of people seem to not notice, or they get confused. They're like, oh, we should have reached for here. And it's like, oh, I don't know why it didn't reach here. Like in a buy program, we should be respecting bullish arrays and we should not be breaking like this. However, when we do go ahead and reach major targets, that program can break temporarily. Okay. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that video. Hope you guys enjoyed that breakdown. I'm liking the structure right now of whiteboard and then top down. So if you guys have any other suggestions on how potentially I could record these to make them more useful, do let me know, drop in the comments. And yeah, hopefully you guys got some value out of this.